Okay, so welcome everybody. It's good morning for you, Atul. It's good afternoon to those who are joining from Africa. And then, of course, it's good evening to people joining from India, Bangladesh, and other places. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I will share the screen now so that we have a little PPT prepared. Just one second. I had actually closed this. Sorry. Okay. Is the PPT visible?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll
You
put it on full screen.
presentation mode? Yes.
Okay.
You're and
Uh,
off
so
the
it's
meeting being recorded icon. This
the meeting being recorded.
yeah, it says meeting is being recorded and it's an OK icon. So if you click on OK, it will disappear because it's obscuring a part of the screen. So I think you might want to go to this, yes, over here perhaps. Or I don't know if you can see, or at least on my side, there is meeting is being recorded icon. Oh, you know what? It was on my
No,
side. No worries. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. It's being recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no issue on that.
No,
I will just put on the
no.
PPT now.
Okay.
Uh, I'll make it full screen. Yeah. So it's my absolute honor to have Dr. Atul Singh as a speaker for today's webinar hosted by Naya Savera Nayumang. Uh, Atul is a class fellow from the school days and a dear friend. He has, of course, been in the US now for over 25 years. So he's a US based gastroenterologist and a hepatologist. He's board certified in both gastroenterology and internal medicine. For somebody who is a non-medical like me, it's a bit difficult to pronounce these words, but nevertheless, I'll try. And Dr. Atul specializes in endoscopic management of hepatobiliary tumors and treats a wide range of GI and liver conditions. He is currently practicing in the New York, and he brings deep expertise and a compassionate outlook shaped by decades of patient care. So, first of all, thank you very much, Atul, for taking the time out. I know it's very early for you in the morning. It's 8 o'clock there in New York to share your knowledge and wisdom through this webinar to whoever is able to join in, and through the recording to several others who will probably hear to your recording as well. But before I get on to the discussion with you, just a little brief on what is Naya Savera Nayuman. This is customary for us to do it every time we do a webinar or a physical event. So Naya Savera Nayumang, or NSNU in short, with a tagline of Beyond Years, Beyond Boundaries, was established with a profound commitment to further enhance the quality of life for our seniors and creating a collaborative space for professionals of all ages. Beyond years, beyond boundaries, I think it is apparently clear. Beyond years because it's meant for people who are now senior citizens. But of course, as we said, it's also creating a collaborative space for professionals of all ages. And beyond boundaries, because while at the moment we are present over the last 1 year in Lucknow and Delhi NCR, we do have plans to take it to 50 cities, mostly in India, but also outside of India in a few cities over the next 5 years going into 2030. So exactly about 2 years back, I mean, as we now move into August of 2025, in August of 2023, when I was already 59, that is when this idea burst. I mean, essentially, I said to myself that, look, I am not in the mood to hang my boots as yet. And I said to myself also that there would be so many out there who would be thinking similarly. And There is no reason why anybody who is reaching the age of 60 should be, retiring. I mean, even if there is retirement from work or active work, it does not mean that they have to retire from life. And it is my firm belief, it's always been my firm belief that 60 plus is the most matured demography with loads of wisdom, experience, and knowledge that has come to them through years of work and experience. And to retire them from life would mean injustice not only to them but also to the larger society. And hence we sort of developed NSNU and Nayasavera Nayumang. So as we started our journey in August of 2023,
हाँ हाँ
sorry,
वॉल्यूम बहुत कम आ रहा है
आपको सेटिंग में बोल तो है नहीं और एडजस्ट होता है सेटिंग में होता है प्रॉब्लम का
uh, yeah, am I audible or is
Yes,
there an issue?
we can hear you, Sam.
Okay, yeah. So like I was saying, I mean, as we started our journey in August of 2023, for about a year, we essentially looked at various things as we went about registering Naya Savera, Nayumang formally, and also made preparations to launch it formally. So we looked at the problem that basically was there in the space of the elderly demography, and we came to the conclusion that all things considered, there are four things which are essentially the summary of what ails the elderly. So deteriorating health as people age, this becomes a pain point. And then as the regular income stops for the elderly, the rising inflation and the costs, they start biting. And as people age even beyond 70 or 75, there's an increasing dependency for small errands, even for small errands, on other people. And then, of course, as in the times that we live, the families are becoming more and more nuclear and smaller. The loneliness, steps in. So we said to ourselves that what is it that we can do to address these four pain points, and we said let's list five focus pillars. So whatever we do, we will essentially focus ourselves on these five focus pillars, and these five focus pillars are listed here. So health and well-being, and today's webinar, for example, is essentially around health and well-being. The second is community engagement. The third would be around estate and financial planning. Fourth, advocacy and awareness. And the fifth, but certainly not the least important, is collaborations and support. And in the arena of what we could offer, we said that in every city that we operate in, whether it is Lucknow now and Delhi NCR, we would hold at least one physical event and one webinar. And the webinar is, of course, accessible by people across the globe. And we said that we will specifically reach out to stitching together partnerships with like minded institutions because whatever we do, it will still be a drop in the ocean. And it is essential for us to look at collaborations. And through collaborations, we felt that a lot more can actually be done. And the third is, of course, that as we do these events and as we stitch together partnerships, it offers the community, whether it is the elderly professional or whether it is the not so elderly professional, an opportunity to forge connects. Uh, so, uh, so this is where, like I said, we want to be in 2030. We want to be in 50 cities. At the moment, we are in Lucknow, Delhi, NCR, and we're looking to also be in Kolkata in the course of this financial year, uh, going up to March 31st, 2026. We've kept our team fairly slim in the sense that we do have a seven-member governing body. We have several people on our advisory board. We are quite focused on research as well as on communications. So we have a communications and research lead. And then in every city that we start our operations, we have a team which we call as chapter committee members, and uh, and then of course they are supported by volunteers who we call as ambassadors or community catalyst. Excuse me. So our mission is basically to get to about 100,000 members. It's a far cry from what we are currently. And of those 100,000 members, we are saying 50% we would like women. And then, of course, 50 cities, India and global. And like I said, we are very keen to stitch partnerships with like minded institutions in the thematic area where we are working, and a minimum of 25 partnerships by 2030. So very quickly, this is the governing body. Apart from myself, there is Sanjay Goval, Surinder Purwar, Manoj Panwal. They are all from Lucknow. I was in Lucknow when this started. So most of the people who are on the governing board, they are either uh, people that I've known from school or from college or from my days in business management. Uh, this is Balbinder, Ravi, and Shurunjon. Shurunjon is based out of Kolkata. Balbinder is also in Delhi. Ravi is in Lucknow. And then we have the advisory board. Like I said, this is a ever expanding advisory board. At the moment, we have Srimati Neena Agarwal, Omkar Pandey, Madhu Kumar, Sri Rakesh Gupta, and Ashish Srivastava. They all come from different professional streams, all with capabilities of their own. We have a small Delhi NCR committee at the moment. There is Srimati Abha Gupta, Pankaj Seth, Preeti Singh, and Puneet Pandey. Similarly, Kolkata, we do have a committee, and we are trying to see how to also start operating in Kolkata. So there is Shurunjon, Shujit, Rajshekhar, and Karlon. And this is the team of community catalyst or volunteers, and this is also an ever-growing team. So this is the communications and research lead who is supporting us on communications and research, as well as we do take interns from time to time to basically offer them an exposure on the thematic area on which we are working. At the same time, they're also useful to us on research. Asit is our podcast partner. He runs a very popular podcast site called The Good Site, which is among the top podcast sites in the world. These are some voices and videos of support that have come through people who have worked in the past, and they've all been very supportive of what we've been trying to do. These are some pictures from past events, our work with old age homes, our work in the elderly home care space, some spiritual events at various places. And then I'll stop here because the idea is basically to give the floor to Atul. So Atul is, like you suggested, for today, basically the format would be in terms of a question and answer session where I would be asking some questions on behalf of the audience to Dr. Atul, and he would be answering. We will pause after every set of questions so that in case anybody wants to intervene and ask some follow-up question on that slide, they can do, or else they can reserve their questions for the end of the session. So can we start, Atul?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Sammy, for that very glowing introduction, which I have to say must be taken with a bit of grain of salt, given, as you said, the bias, of the fact that we went to school together. But good afternoon and good evening to everyone, and hello and greetings and namaskar, brothers and sisters, ayo behno. It's of course, as Sami noted, I've been doing GI and hepatology for a good 30 plus years, perhaps 32, 34 years at this point. So a long time. And Sami and I go back a long time. When we were in school together, we have stayed in touch. the WhatsApp group. And, this is a delight and a pleasure. And what Sammy is doing is amazing. I share in his idea, the vision. They say 60 is the new 40. And for sure, there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be shared. I'm truly inspired. I'm honored to be here. And I'm happy to try to foster, or rather participate in the discussion and share what I know. I operate in a very small, tiny rabbit hole, as Sammy said, of mostly doing endoscopy for liver and gallbladder and pancreas tumors. But, the broad specialty is that of GI. And first, you are a physician. And it's not that we have all the answers. So to the extent that there are questions, I suggested to Sammy, rather than have a didactic, it'd be more helpful to have a discussion where we share, what we have figured out about how the world, how our body operates, our experiences. There's a lot there. Science is ever evolving. And as they say, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. The perimeter of the ignorance expands faster than the circumference of your knowledge. So before I hand it back over to Sammy, I just like to make a quick comment in terms of, overall schema, in that, the body is incredibly complex. It's like a very sophisticated device or a machine, a car or a plane or a rocket, whatever you can visualize, except that it comes without a manual. And it is our job then to try to figure out how it works. And then if it were to break down, how to fix it. And that is the science of it, which continues to evolve. So with that, I know that there are questions, and let's have this discussion. I look forward to it, Sammy. Over to you.
No, thank you, Atul. This is an interactive webinar, and I mean, in the day and time that we live today, I was telling Atul that we can always find answers on Google. We can always find answers on ChatGPT, but there are insights that come through years of experience, which one cannot find on Google, which one cannot find on ChatGPT, is my strong belief. And which is the idea of doing this webinar, because the questions that I ask on behalf of people who are part of the NSNU group are only questions to lead, a response from Atul, which is out of his experience, which is his insights on the topic. And I think that is what is going to be most useful to the people listening in today, or people who will listen in to the recording. So let me just go with the first slide, which is on clinical insights and trends. And Atul, you see the question A, B, and C. These are very general questions, like I said, which most people have, and you could answer all the three together, or separately. But essentially, I think what people are wanting to know is that what are the common, gastrointestinal or liver disorders that you have encounter in your practice today, or you see as the common sort of disorders. And the other one is about observing changes in the prevalence of fatty liver disease or acid reflux, and similar. And I think the third one is something that most people would ask: that how does lifestyle, especially diet and stress, affect our gut and our liver function, and what would you recommend? Yeah. So to you, Atul, what would you say to this?
Yeah, for sure. you kid with friends that all roads lead to GI, and that's only half a joke because the other half of it is true. It would not be funny if it were not at least partially true. And the point is that the gut is so important. If you think about it, what we eat are atoms, and we are atoms. We are who we are. We became who we are today from a little tiny, um, you know, person by imbibing, ingesting all these atoms. And so what we eat is who we are. And so it really has a great impact. And there is the common knowledge, which makes, sense that there is a rising trend of various conditions that we all experience and see, which is a function of what we eat. And much has been written about it. There is a lot of it that's in the news and periodicals and everywhere. And there is, of course, a rising trend of obesity. Um, Obesity rates have ballooned. If you look at WHO maps, where they have over decades, gray to yellow to red of rising obesity trends, the whole world is now suffering with that epidemic. Consequently, there has been a rise in a lot of the other conditions, associated with it, the reflux, the diabetes. It's also, with the lifestyle that we have, which is not only the diet part of it, but also the fact that we have more resources and more conveniences and less mobility, perhaps even. That has a great deal to do with the conditions that afflict us today. And so, in that context, you see a lot of reflux, a lot of constipation, a lot of diarrhea, even IBS. There's also the rising problem of liver disease because obesity results in direct damage to the liver. It causes diabetes, which makes the liver disease and everything else worse. That has a lot of downstream effects. We are like a machine, like I said. And so, if you were to introduce a little tiny speck or a little pebble into the machine, well, the whole thing, it starts off with little issue here, and then there's a downstream cascade. So then, as a result of that initial whatever it is, liver disease, that can cause other related problems, including chronic inflammation and cancer and so on and so forth. And so it's a very
तो नीचे है क्या करे उसको कहाँ करना है ऐसे घुमा दे तो आगे आ जाएगा
Sorry, Atul, go ahead.
oh, no worries. I mean, I thought maybe there's a question. And so just to close this idea off, the reason why it happens, right? So we know what happens, and the reason of why it happens is because ultimately the idea is that with these chronic conditions, one develops greater inflammation. The inflammation causes the body and the individual structures, the lining of the gut, the lining of the endothelium, the lining of the different organs not to be working well. And so there is increased permeability. So there is, of course, the bacteria is going across back and forth. That causes more inflammation. So it's a downhill cascade. It's the same, perhaps, as I think about it, that little penny or that little coin, that you can sort of drop down in this circular thing, and then it starts to spin, and the faster it spins, or the lower it goes, the faster it spins, and then and so it's that. So again, to summarize, rising obesity trends, rising reflux, rising IBS, causing liver disease. There's chronic inflammation that's causing diabetes, that's causing high blood pressure, heart problems, strokes, all of that. Those are very intertwined. Um, so the last question was about, yes. So, I mean, again, I think that probably addresses all the three questions, Sammy.
Yeah, so thanks, Atul, for that. I mean, moving on, I mean, if you look at preventive care and screening, uh, we know that there is also the issue of colon cancer. So just on that, I mean, what is your view? At what age should individuals, start screening for conditions like colon cancer or hepatitis? Uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, when should people? I mean, how and when should people start? Being on the lookout for serious diseases like this colon cancer or hepatitis.
For sure. In America, we start screening, it used at 50 years, now it's 45 years. There's a rising trend of colon cancer, not only in this country, but worldwide. Again, that's probably attributable to the foods that we eat. There's been a lot made out of the fact that we eat a lot more processed food. Um, there is a great movement now in that regard where it's farm to table. It's involution, it's a regression back to the days when we would live on farm, grow our food, not have pesticides, um, and so on. And so there's a rising trend of colon cancer, which is why the age has gone from 50 to 45. Younger people are getting it now. Worldwide, how we do it here is that everybody gets a colonoscopy, or is recommended that they get a colonoscopy. It's not easy for the rest of the world to really to recommend that, because it's a very expensive and a logistically challenging endeavor. Screening for colon cancer, therefore, the most cost effective way, at least that's how the WHO thinks about it, is to do what is known as a stool test. The stool test should probably be done every year, if not every other year, and there's a couple different kinds. Starting at age 50 or even 45. The trends are global. If we find rising trends in one country, that is probably also going to be true in other, because the globalization trend is so prevalent and increasingly prevalent of the kinds of food and so on and so forth that we ingest, lifestyle. And so the stool test is basically one where you're looking for small traces of blood, or maybe small traces of, there's another kind of test where you're looking for small traces of just the protein, that is the hemoglobin, which is also part of the blood. And so that is a bit more sensitive. But essentially, the idea is that cancer in the colon develops is a sequence. It is a process. There is a normal lining of the colon, and then there is some abnormality. As a result of the abnormality, the lining of the colon then starts to grow. It becomes what is known as a polyp. It takes about a good 10, 15, 20 years. Why that happens is probably a function of both our genes and then also our lifestyle, the foods that we eat. Mobility is very important in that regard. And that's a good 10, 15-year process. Once it develops into a polyp, then that polyp over the next 15, 20, 30 years, in many or some instances, will develop into a cancer. So it's known as the adenoma carcinoma sequence, meaning that normal mucosa, meaning normal lining of the colon, develops into a polyp, the adenoma, and then that over many decades will turn into a cancer. So there's a long interval a long window which can be taken advantage of, which is why you then want to start checking at about age 50. And the reason you're checking for the blood is that the idea is that the polyps will start to bleed, very small amounts of blood. And by the time they turn into early cancer, they're probably bleeding more. So you want to catch it either at the polyp state or at a very early cancer state when it can be chopped off completely. The problem is if you do not do it in a timely fashion, then it grows to late stage cancer, which is, stage 2, stage 3, and those become then very difficult to treat. So the short answer to the question of when it is that we should start screening for cancer, everybody should be screened for colon cancer. It should start at age 45 in an average individual. If there's family history of colon cancer, then you have to try to individualize it. Who in the family got it, what kind of cancer it was, and if someone in the immediate family developed, let's say, cancer at age 40, and it was very aggressive, then you probably want to start 10 years before that in the close family members. So there's a bit of nuance to it, but generally for an average individual, the average population, you should start screening for colon cancer at age 45 to 50, and perhaps short of a colonoscopy, which cannot be widely available everywhere. Those tests are very expensive. Probably the best and is the stool test, and they are probably as good as long as one does it every year. The problem with the stool test is that you have to do it every year. The advantage of the colonoscopy is that you do it once every 10 years. So that is probably the biggest advantage. That's just one. And the reason I spent so much time on it is because that's the bulk of all the GI cancers. In addition, there is the stomach cancer, which is more in Japan because of the kinds of food that we eat. We don't see that. Perhaps I think we see that a bit more in India. We don't see that over here in the US as much. There's the liver cancer. There's the pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is sadly one of those which happen to be very difficult to either detect early on, and even when detected, they're late. Usually the outcomes are fatal. That continues to have the highest mortality of all cancers. How do you look for pancreatic cancer? If someone develops diabetes late in life at about age, late in life, meaning, 60, 70, those might be triggers. Pancreatic cancer might present like that. But that does not mean necessarily that, in someone who gets diagnosed with diabetes at age 50, 60, 70 is developing pancreatic cancer. It might be that it went undetected for, all these years or decades, and now it's being picked up. There is the liver cancer. That's a big problem, increasing liver cancer in India because of the hepatitis B. And then increasingly now because of fatty liver, which causes cirrhosis, and that can cause that can lead to liver cancer. So anyone who's a cirrhotic, and cirrhosis means that you have, a lot of damage to the liver, and your doctors will tell you that you have cirrhosis. There is sort of 4 stages to it, meaning fibrosis can be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 is cirrhosis. If you have cirrhosis, you need to be screened for liver cancer every 6 months. So colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, liver cancer. Then there's esophageal cancer. The oral cancers happen in India because of all the the caustic ingestion, the alcohol, all of that can cause it. Pretty much, that, covers most of it. I don't know if that answers all the questions on the slide, Sammy, but
It does. There's one question from Ravi on the chat, and he's asking about your view on curd. In fact, there's also a question on curd and probiotics in the slide deck. But since he's asking, maybe you want to comment on that.
for sure. So rising incidence of GERD, everyone, seems to have the problem and the affliction of chest pain. And chest pain in an elderly, and, not just an elderly, but, in a middle-aged into a, individual has to first exclude any heart condition. And if that's been excluded, then you'll find yourself being referred to a gastroenterologist. It's probably reflux. Reflux is essentially the acid in the stomach coming up into the food pipe, the esophagus, because there's an esophagus from the mouth that carries the food to the stomach. And right where it meets the stomach is a valve. The job of the valve is to prevent acid and food and whatever the stomach contents are from coming back up into the esophagus. Now, because of multiple reasons, including food that we eat, because some foods can cause the muscle to relax, coffee, chocolate, fatty food, so on and so forth. Obesity, because that causes the whole anatomy, the physics of it to get a bit altered, because that valve is a very intricate mechanism where it goes through the diaphragm. It has got a little bit of an angle to it. When there is fat and all that in that area, that angle is messed up. So all of that, and then, it can get pulled in different directions, and that can cause hypertonia. So the valve mechanism is not working anymore. As a result, there is going to be efflux. All the contents of the stomach are going to start coming back up in the esophagus and cause the problem. The esophagus does not like acid. And so if you expose it to acid over long periods of time, and not just acid, but contents of the stomach, which include other things such as bile and so on and so forth, that can cause irritation, and chronic irritation over a long period of time, because that has to be repaired by all these DNA, mechanisms. And then, in the repair process, maybe a mutation. And so now the repair process is altered, and that then results into cancer. Cancer is basically where there's a mutation which can be genetic or it can be acquired. And now, instead of a signal saying, for example, the finger is long enough, or this mucosa, we don't need to grow anymore, that signal is lost, it keeps growing, and that's basically cancer. So because of the alteration as a result of the chronic inflammation, you'll see that chronic inflammation is a common theme across, all of it. And so all of the foods, all of the, processed stuff is causing leaky gut. That's causing bacteria to go in and out. And then it's causing inflammation. Inflammation is making it all worse. And inflammation is a common theme. And so anyway, so with the reflux now, there is this chronic inflammation, and that causes cancer. And so there is a risk of, that turning to what is known as, I think Ravi might be referring to what is known as the Barrett's. That's the first precursor. That's like, the polyp is the precursor to colon cancer. And then that, again, in some cases, will turn into esophageal cancer, which is a dreadful cancer. And the reason it's a dreadful cancer is because you're plugged up. And that's, sufferance. So I'm not sure if I answered the question about the reflux, but happy to sort of, clarify, or if there are other clarifying questions.
Yeah, I think the question that Ravi was trying to ask Atul is basically about curd, yogurt, or about probiotic.
Oh, GERD, I'm sorry. So
Yeah,
did you? Oh,
probiotic
GERD,
or
oh,
curd.
not GERD. I heard GERD.
No,
Apologies.
no. I realized you heard it wrong. So
Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, I think the knowledge that you shared about that was also useful. But in terms of curd and probiotics, I mean,
sure.
is that something you recommend? Is that something that's useful?
Absolutely. 100%, totally. Probiotics are very helpful because the gut is a lining of living cells, and you have to give them the right kind of food. And the right food for them is something known as butyrate and short chain fatty acid. It is also coexisting in a milieu of other friends, which is the other bacteria. In fact, if we took us and then analyzed all the DNA, only 2% of the DNA would be our DNA, 98% of the DNA would be all the other bacteria. And of course, a lot of that bacteria not only resides on our skin, inside the nose, but in the GI tract. Enormous amount of bacteria, trillions and trillions. And these are like your friends or foe. So the city or the village that you live in, your health or your well-being is going to be a function of who your family and friends are. And so if you think about it in that way, as we grow older, some of the bacteria is going to gets altered. Processed food has been known to cause decrease of the good bacteria and worsening of, increasing population of the unfriendly or even, what would be considered enemies. And so taking a probiotic is really shifting the balance in favor of the good bacteria. So the probiotic has this whole list of all these bacteria, which are all healthy and good for us. There is also the concept of not only probiotic, and so yogurt has a lot of that, right? So, which we call curd. Just a quick comment about the curd. There is curd or yogurt, and then there is yogurt. And by that, I mean that the yogurt that we find in our shelves, especially in this country, is, in my opinion, and in all opinion, most nutritionists' opinion, very unhealthy because it all contains sugar, and it all contains some other whatever you call it, the chemical to the preservative. And the point of it is that the best yogurt is the homemade yogurt, plain, nothing, no sugar, nothing. The best drink is water. It's not Coke, it's not this. But you find proliferation. I mean, I have kids. I've college kids and all that. They don't like to drink plain water or eat plain yogurt. But from that standpoint, I think that's a very important point. So that's the probiotic. Yogurt is a great probiotic. There are probiotic pills that you can get and take it. But I think that the best probiotic really is yogurt. And then I'm going to eat a lot of yogurt, and I'm going to eat a lot of plain yogurt, which is exactly what I do. And then there's also the concept of prebiotic. And the prebiotic is really where you have all these good bacteria, but then the good bacteria also need some food. So prebiotic basically means that you are eating food. It's like fertilizer for the good bacteria, and that's fiber. So when you eat fiber and certain kinds of fiber, short chain fatty acids and butyric acid, that probably serves as food for the bacteria or the probiotic. And probiotic is just good bacteria. And then that's going to help you because you are fertilizing or feeding your friends, family and friends in your village, so to speak.
Thanks, Atul. There was one other question from Leo on cancer of the stomach or the liver or pancreas in children. I mean, is that something that you see a lot these days? Is that something that one needs to be uh, careful about? What signs should one look for to basically be careful about?
For sure. That's a great question because you do see it in young people, by children, if you mean, teenagers and older, in that group. It's shocking, and you're seeing it a lot more. As to why, there is this ongoing, people looking into it, but the obvious and the hypothesis and what seems obvious is that it's a function of the food that we eat. And there is increasing recognition of the fact that there is microplastic, not only in the environment, in the water, in the soil around us, but in our endothelial cells, in the heart, in our cells, everywhere, in our brains, there is microplastic. And if there is microplastic, there are all these other chemicals. I mean, there is increasing ban of these red colors and so on and so forth. And what is sad, what I see in India is that there is an increasing proliferation. So in other countries, maybe even in the US, and I think to a greater extent in Europe, where they are probably more cognizant of it, and there's a regression. In India, there is a proliferation, and there's all these colors and all these fanciful things that we are drawn to, like shiny objects, which are extremely deleterious. So that probably is causing some of the cancers. There might be other reasons, but that seems to be the most obvious. We'll see. So you do see, and you see the younger and younger people, and it's shocking. And sadly, once you have it, you have it. Prevention, therefore, being what? So the idea, of perhaps, these kind of conversations amongst us is to really be forewarned, because then you're forearmed. And if there is, just a couple of messages, concepts that I'll share, it is back to farm to table. If man made it, don't eat it. And that was a famous saying going back. I did not make it up. But Jacques Leland was a famous bodybuilder. I think it was a French bodybuilder who died at the age of 90. This goes back. He died, 20, 30 years ago. And that is his saying. And I so believe in it. And by man made it, don't eat it, I mean that, if it's in a package, if it's in a tin, this, that, pre-processed, frozen, those are probably the worst. To cook your own food and all of that, I think. So I'm going, a bit, answering more than the question, because it is such an important part, and it is so important, and it is so sad that younger people are getting more cancer, colon cancers, and stomach cancers, and other cancers.
Thanks, Atul. Moving on from children to elderly, I think one thing that most elderly would want to know from you is that actually two things. One is that what kind of symptoms should they be looking for, as a sign of something coming in the category of gastroenterology, and also what are those preventive screenings or tests that you would recommend the elderly should, beyond a certain age, be taking, so that, if there's something that's not visibly showing, it can be detected through a test. For example, you mentioned earlier on that once you cross the age of 45, it is advisable to do a stool test and look for any traces of blood, even if you may not be able to do a colonoscopy. But then, what else? I mean, as people age, what should they be looking for? What tests should they regularly be doing?
Yeah. So there are the standard recommendations, and the standard recommendations are the colon cancer screening. If you have cirrhosis, the liver cancer screening. There isn't a whole lot. And so there is a great sort of divergence. There are some people who are overdoing it, and then there's another group that is not doing it at all. How do you find balance? I mean, there are the recommendations. I think one should follow the recommendations. And even those recommendations are evolving, right? For breast cancer, for prostate cancer, for lung cancer. There is not a whole lot of screening for pancreatic cancer. But we can all go crazy about it. I mean, the people that are moneyed are probably traveling all over the globe, and there are all these services that are being offered by way of a whole MRI scan. And there's a problem with that. I mean, you have to be careful what you wish for, because you get a scan and then you find something which is off, right? Because the scan is like you're getting a view from a 50,000, you're getting a 50,000 aerial view, and then there is something wrong. Is it real, or is it something which happens to be, there, and it's been there forever? That's how you were born, except we don't know. And so now you have gathered the information by way of a scan, found something abnormal, and then what do you do with it is in question. And the point, because now you have found something, you cannot sleep. Now someone has to go and poke it, and curiosity kills the cat. It happens all the time. And the point is that there is this balance. That's the point I'm trying to make. And these recommendations are also evolving. It used to be like, for breast cancer, we do it. And again, I'm not a breast cancer expert, but all I have a sense of is that it has evolved, and there's a lot of politics around it, with the women groups saying, no, we should do it every year, no, we should do it every 5 years, no, it's not helpful. All of that happens, right? So there are some good common sense guidelines, but those pretty much are what I said. It's for colon cancer, it's for liver cancer, like I said. There isn't anything for pancreatic, for esophageal cancer. If someone has reflux, you take a medication, it does not go away. It's been going on, you're age 40 and more, you're a smoker, then probably doing one endoscopy just to make sure that there was no Barrett's, that would be helpful. And then if you do have Barrett's, then you do one every 5 years. Or if you have Barrett's dysplasia, then you have to do it every 3 years. So there's some more sort of nuanced specifics around that. In Japan, they do cancer screening for the stomach. We don't do that in the rest of the world generally. If you have certain conditions, for example, inflammatory bowel disease, not irritable bowel disease syndrome, but inflammatory bowel disease, which is Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, which, by the way, is on the rise in India. And I'm going to make a comment about that. But if one has that, and if I've had it for a number of years, 8 years to 10 years, then there's a recommendation to do a screening for the colon cancer, because it's a process of inflammation. And whenever there is inflammation, there is a turnover in the cells and repair and so on. When there's such a high turnover, something can go wrong. And that something that can go wrong can cause the cancer. And so you should look for cancer. You should be on a high alert for cancer, have a high degree of suspicion. So you would do
Atul, we've got Nikita. She's put her hand up. You may ask your question.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Atul. I'm Nikita. I'm speaking from France. I heard that you said that in India, you compared India and Europe, actually. So I just have like a question. I'm a person who's a very conscious person about her health. Like I've had some health issues in the past, and after that, I have become a very health conscious person. I'm a person who gets up around 5:30 in the morning, go for running, then I do yoga. Still, and I have a bunch of friends here who are from all over the world. And like what you were saying about the IBS and about the stomach thing. So we've all been facing these issues, and I have a bunch of friends who are all very health conscious. We go for running every morning. Like we have our own schedules. But we try and maintain a healthy diet. We are all vegetarians majorly. Like I'm a total vegetarian, but I have friends from America, Brazil, everywhere who are not vegetarians. So, but like we try and maintain like a sportive lifestyle, if you say, like, which is a very difficult thing to do. We have long working hours. but still we do face health issues. So like I have had IBS also, and currently I am suffering from something called cervical because I have like dislocated my disc. Like that's another issue that's not gut related at all, from working long hours. Even though I run for an hour every morning and then I do yoga, I also try and do swimming. Yeah, so I just, and sometimes it's just like you mentioned about frozen food and everything, like fresh fruits. I try and buy every day like fresh fruits and legumes and vegetables at the grocery store, but it's not possible. I do use frozen foods in the cooking, but still, I try and don't have any refrigerated foods. I don't eat a lot of oil. I really only use, if I'm using oil, I only use olive oil for cooking. I hardly eat out at the restaurants. If I'm going out, it's maybe once in 2 months or something. So what advice do you have for people like us? Because I have friends also who are facing the same issues, and we are in our 30s. We are not very old, really.
Oh, for sure. I mean, um, you are very young. Gosh, I'd trade places with you in a heartbeat for, and take all your problems that you have as well. But I think, the devil is in the detail. Um, we all have certain beliefs and concepts. What I mean by that is we eat certain foods and consider it to be good when in fact it may not be. That's the devil in the detail.
Can you please
You,
elaborate on that? I would like to understand that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, this whole idea of farm to table and regression has to be taken to its ultimate, end, and to try to eliminate. And no matter how hard you try, there are things that you could still check off on that box in an incredible way. I mean, the fact that, we love to eat out is a big problem. I call, and so maybe, so, to be, I'm to be pompous, I'll get invited to all these dinners because you're a doc and all of that. I call that free poison. I don't eat at restaurants. And
No,
so you
we
have to,
don't. Sorry
you,
to cut you off, but even we don't.
yeah,
I'm really sorry to cut you off because that's what I
no,
said.
no, please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of assumption here, right? So, oh, please, I'll let you finish first.
Like what I said, like we hardly eat out because very conscious. We sleep around 10ish. Like all my, like these are normally like my girlfriends whom I go out with. We normally, if we are meeting also, we meet around 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We go to bed by 10 o'clock. We have
Mhm.
this regime. We get up by, some of us like get up by 5, some of us get up by 7, and we go up for running by 6 in the morning. Like we go on a different ways. Then like some of them go for gym after that, after the running. I do yoga. So, and then like their husbands also, like they go for work after that. They also joining work. I work from home, so I have that flexibility, but some of them immediately go to work after that. So it's just really hard because all of us are having suddenly these health issues. Either someone is having a back issue, or like all of us are having these sudden health issues. All of us are in 30s. It's really weird.
Well, body does start to break down. Of course, it's a machine after all. It's not going to be, but there's also this whole idea of mind body, right? Uh,
Yeah.
mind body is that, stress does cause, a lot of those afflictions for sure. Back pain, knee pain. I mean, people can, have a lot of the arthritis flare up because they're stressed. Disease conditions do stress up when you're stressed. But the food, to the extent one can, I mean, just generally, so the concepts, again, I think just generally are number one, like I said, if man, farm to table, if man made it, don't eat it. If it tastes good, spit it out. Movement is medicine.
Yeah.
These are, I mean, you have to really, and it's not, I do it 5 times of the year, but what matters is, if you do it 300, the remaining three, what matters is what you do the remaining 360 days of the year, right? People will go out, do stuff, and they said, oh my God, look, I started on New Year's, and they do it for 5 days, and they, believe that, and so we all have to try. And, no one can do it 100%. We're all going to die regardless. It's a downhill course in terms of, bodily functions and so on and so forth. And what we are trying to do is to maximize the utility and the quality. And then sometimes you can, and then sometimes it's not so effective. But, I'm happy to sort of, have as a one-to-one.
No, but I totally agree with you. I think like we do have stressful lives. That's one thing.
Yeah, I was about to say that, Nidhi, that look, I mean, in spite of having a healthy lifestyle and keeping to home diet and like doing running and yoga, as you said,
Yeah.
there is still that work-life balance that I think is important, and also the stress. I think sometimes gets to the gut. I would say I'm not a specialist as Dr. Atul, but I would think that the stress does cause a lot of health issues. So yeah, so I think there's no short answer for that, but yes, definitely something to be concerned about. That in spite of a healthy lifestyle, in spite of keeping to home food and taking all precautions, there's still those health issues that crop up and trouble us. I have a lot more questions to ask, and I'm sure others may also have other questions to ask. But in the interest of time, I think we have to probably end it here, unless and until somebody's got some burning question to ask. But Atul, I may reach out to you in the future for maybe a part two of this conversation. This was really so nice. I'm sure there were many takeaways in this short session. Uh, and I will put a summary out as well as I put the recording out in the group for the larger group, and hopefully people will benefit from this conversation from your talk. So thank you very much to you and to everybody else who was able to join today, and we look forward to having more of these kind of conversations and sessions in the future. If there's anything in closing, Atul, that you would like to say to all of us, please, you're welcome to do so.
All I would say is that, the science on all of this is obviously not very clear, still evolving. I'm no expert in this. I just have, developed a sense about all of this, living, and experiencing life as we all have. We are all experts in this. And it is for us to share our ideas and concepts, which I think makes us all better. I do look forward to more of this because it helps, me also figure out and understand and learn from you all. But thank you so much, Sammy. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. We shall meet again. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.